Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again on Safe Money Radio. You might be listening in the radio. You might be watching online on YouTube or watching the podcast, but we're grateful for you joining us today. And I'll tell you, listen, I have a lot of great guests on the show, but this is one of my all-time favorites. So Tom Hegna is back with us again today, probably from sunny Arizona, correct?
Yeah, but it's been a little chilly. It was a little chilly yesterday. The north winds came in and chilled us out on the golf course. But yeah, it's been in the 60s and 70s pretty much.
Yeah, and I was going to say, you're probably still where you could go play golf, whereas I was telling Tom before this started today, those of us listening, you'll probably hear this a couple of weeks from now, but you'll remember January 10th in the Ozarks because it's still snowing outside. There's about 6 inches of snow on the ground, so there's no golf for us this afternoon. So, well, I tell you what, everyone that's listening, you know who Tom Hegna is, world-renowned economist. He speaks all over the world. And I tease him, though, even though he says he's semi-retired, every single time I open the computer, I turn on LinkedIn, he's everywhere. He may be semi-retired, but he's still speaking all over the world. So, Tom, go back a year ago. Actually, it was a year ago this week. I was flying out to New York to come out to be there with you to record an episode of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And I have now handed this book out to clients all over the country. I'm so grateful for you taking the time to do that. Tell everyone about Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, kind of what happened this last year in releasing the book. I know that's awesome for you.
Yeah, and by the way, that played on Fox Business, and you got that episode played, and it was an awesome episode. So, what's weird is that I spent my entire career really working on helping baby boomers protect their wealth and distribute their wealth. But and I'm a baby boomer, so that made sense for me. But I've got kids as well. I've got 4 kids. I've got from age 22 to age 40, and I watch them and I watch their friends do things with money. And I said, you know what? I really have to write a book for younger people on how to actually build wealth. So many kids are trying to look wealthy. They want to have a new car and they want to have a fancy house. They want to have all these things that make them look wealthy, but they're really broke. And that's not the way to build true wealth. And so, I wrote a book on how to build wealth and how simple it is, not easy, but simple it is to become a millionaire in America today, and really to give people hope. And part of it is, Brad, and what I'm learning as the book is out, is that younger people just need to be more patient. They might be in their 30s and they don't feel rich and they feel like, oh, what's the use? I'll never get there. But what I talk about, and I may even put an additional chapter in the book, I might read it because I'm learning things as it's coming out. And the rule of 72, that's how fast money doubles. So if you get 1% interest, you divide 1% into 72, it takes 72 years for your money to double. If you get 10%, it only takes 7.2 years for your money to double. So what I would do with younger people when I was out on appointments, this was 35 years ago, but I'd say, okay, you're in your 30s, you have 150,000 in your 401k or your investments or whatever. You don't feel wealthy, but let me show you the rule of 72. If you could get 7.2% on your money, which is fairly reasonable, your money would double every 10 years, so every decade. So that 150,000 in your 30s would be worth 300,000 in your 40s, 600,000 in your 50s, 1.2 million in your 60s, 2.4 million in your 70s, 4.8 million in your 80s, 9.6 million in your 90s, and that's just that money. And then if you're saving and investing along the way, you can have millions and millions of dollars, but it's not going to happen in your 30s and 40s. But it's what you do in your 20s, 30s, and 40s that will allow you to be a millionaire in your 60s, 70s, and 80s. And that's kind of the message I'm learning that seems to be resonating, even though people don't like that. I don't want to wait till I'm 60 to be rich. But you know what? That's the way most people, that's the way it works. And so if people are patient, they can become wealthy.
It is so good. I tell my story. I think every one of us has to tell our story, our background, where we come from. But I literally did not save hardly anything till I was 37 years old. I had $37,000 in an account when I was 37 years old. It was my first retirement account. And I knew enough to know this because I'd listened to you, I'd listened to Ed Slott, some other key people. I converted that $37,000 of tax-deferred money to a Roth right off the bat. It was painful paying that tax. But now, goodness, what it's grown, it's quadrupled since then. The account's done really well. And then, to go from nothing to millions. Like, well, how in the world did you do it? Well, it took 16 years, but just like you said, reading your research, reading the information of a lot of key other people, and knowing it wasn't going to happen overnight, wasn't going to be there tomorrow or next week. This entitled generation of where I should start today and make $35 an hour. Well, it's not going to happen unless you're working for a family member, and it still may not happen. So it's just such great information. Those of you that are listening, if you still haven't heard about this, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, I've given this book out all across the country, and you'll hear more about our contact information later, and I can get you a copy of it. But, well, Tom, tell me this as we're getting started. I know you are semi-retired. I've seen you've taken a couple of cruises with your wife. I see you playing golf and doing different things. What's it like for you trying to navigate? Being someone who was speaking, I think you were speaking like 220 times a year. What's it like pumping the brakes a little bit and having some time off?
Well, you're a golfer, I'm a golfer, and for 30 years I couldn't justify a country club membership because I was on the road 200 days a year. And I could play maybe 2 or 3 times a month, and it'd be ridiculous. There's a buy-in, there's monthly dues, there's minimum food and beverage. Well, now I'm a member at 2 country clubs, and it makes perfect sense. It's a great deal if you golf 4 to 5 times a week. It's a great deal. I couldn't play anywhere else in Arizona for the price I'm playing outside of a country club. And so, but I've learned that, having income is very important, because you don't retire in assets, you retire in income. And you want to have increasing income because you know what happens with country clubs? They raise their dues and then they raise them again and then they raise them again. And so if you don't have increasing income, you're going to get priced out of your retirement. And so that's why I set up multiple annuities to kick in at different ages. So like, I've got my income now, but then when I hit 65, I got a couple annuities that will kick in, and so I'll get more. And then when I hit 70, a couple more kick in, I get more. And then I've got some that I can kick in whenever I want. So I am guaranteed to have increasing income for the rest of my life. So some of my friends are all worried about being priced out of some of their retirement. I planned for that. And I would encourage people to plan to have increasing income in retirement.
That's good. And I want to come back to that later in the show. I know a lot of my listeners, podcast followers, they know that I say I own 8 annuities. I bought 2 more last January, a year ago. I just had my annual anniversary with those. And so they'll always ask, well, why do you own 8? Well, there's a lot of answers for that. Tax statuses, you can't have an IRA and a Roth in the same bucket. You can't have cash and an IRA in the same bucket. But it's also learning from people like Tom and staggering things with income riders and knowing that I have a plan for when I'm going to turn them on at different points down the road. Some of them are more growth focused and deferral. Some of them are income for the future focused. But at some point, they're all going to be income for the future focused as I get closer to retirement. So if you're listening right now, we're glad that you're joining us. I just want to give you a quick number, 866-780-SAFE. That's 866-780-7233. You can call us anytime. You can ask for a copy of my best-selling book, Bulletproof, The Safe and Secure Retirement Income Plan. I also have Tom's books, and if you want one, all you got to do is call us. Don't worry, retire happy. 7 Steps to Retirement Security. We're going to be talking about that on the show later today. So stay with us. We'll be right back after this break. Friends, if you're just joining us, we have world-renowned economist, best-selling author, host of PBS shows that have been viewed all over the world, I think 80 million homes in the United States and Canada, Tom Hegna. So, Tom, I want to do this at the start of the show. I know every year you release your economic opinions, if you will, your summary about what may be coming in the near future. Last night, I watched your 2025 economic summary. And so tell us a little bit about it. A lot's going on in 2025. Give us a quick snapshot of what you think.
Brad, normally I'm able to see kind of what interest rates are going to be doing in the future and things. With this one, this was a very different economic commentary because we just had an election, and it was a very different election. And I started out by just going over some of the promises that Donald Trump has made, all right? And I mean, these are significant promises. There's going to be mass deportations. He's going to close the border, finish the wall, reinstitute Remain in Mexico, give college graduates a green card, designate drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, add 10 to 20% tariffs on non-domestic goods, possibly 60% tariffs on goods from China, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, extend the Trump tax cuts, cap credit card interest rates at 10%. I mean, that's only the first part of the first page. I've got 2 pages of this. So how is all of this going to play out? Your guess is as good as mine. But here's what I would say. With the market at an all-time record high and with all the uncertainty, in my mind, this is not a time to have a bunch of money naked in the stock market. Now, I'm not saying don't be in the stock market. What I'm saying is don't be naked in the stock market. And let me just give you an example. So we've just had some tragedies in my family. We've had a bunch of deaths that just happened, boom, boom, boom. And one of them was my brother-in-law, who's 59. And so my youngest sister is now a widow at age 59. And she's got a financial advisor. And I just said, Becky, if you want, I'll kind of sit in with you and just give another set of eyes on the recommendation. And I'm not saying anything bad about the advisor. I think he did a very good job. But a typical investment advisor is recommending that she puts a very large chunk of her money in the stock market. And at that point, I had to say, time out. She has enough money to have a good retirement without having a bunch of money in the stock market. And as you know, the guaranteed income on some of these annuities right now is crazy good. 6, 7, 8% guaranteed for the rest of your life. Why take money in the market? Now, I'm not saying don't put any money in the stock market, but then there are other tools you can be in the stock market, but have guarantees that you're not going to lose. And yes, some of those fees are a little higher, but what's it worth to not lose money in the market? See, I'm at a point in my life where I want to make as much as I can make, but I don't want to lose what I've already got. And that's the same point as my youngest sister. And so I'm trying to, shape that recommendation, have much more guarantees and have much less in a higher risk type situation, because she doesn't have to. She has enough where she could retire a very nice lifestyle, have increasing income for the rest of her life without taking a lot of risk. And it's like in a football game. If your team's ahead by 42 points, you're not going to leave your starting quarterback in. You're going to pull him out and put in somebody else, because you don't want the risk that person gets hurt. And I don't want the risk that her retirement gets hurt because she has too much money in the market. And so I would just recommend to people to work with people like you, Brad, that know the tools where you can give them guarantees even though they can have significant upside in the stock market.
Hey, I'm telling you, you're speaking our language. I get every opportunity I get to say, go Chiefs. The playoffs start this weekend. And everyone loves the coach. But if he played Patrick Mahomes a week ago when we had a bye game, an opportunity, if he would have played him against the Denver Broncos, everyone would have thrown a fit saying, what are you doing? Thankfully, he sat all the starters. Now, we took a beating, but the game didn't matter, right? And it doesn't matter when you're ahead in the game. You got to take some gains off the table and be safe. So that's so good. I want to ask you about one other thing. You mentioned something, and my brain really got to thinking about it last night. I couldn't even fall asleep. It was all the things Trump has said he's going to do. This administration is not going to be like the last administration. They're polar opposites. And there is an excitement. Everybody's pumped up about what could happen. And that's true, and it's great. But by the same token, there are some things that could happen on his list of 100 that could take the economy in the other direction. Ultimately, I think it would be positive on down the road. But at the very beginning, it could be painful because we're trying to undo some of the junk that's been done. What are your thoughts regarding that?
Donald Trump was just elected as president, and he's put out 120 promises. I just have 2 pages these are just some of the promises, okay? Mass deportations, close the border, finish the wall, remain in Mexico policy, give college graduates a green card, designate drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, the tariff program, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, extend the Trump tax cuts, cap credit card interest rates at 10%, make interest on car loans tax deductible, restore the SALT deductions. Provide universal school choice. This goes on and on and on. And this is just the economic stuff. There's also the Epstein videos, the Diddy videos, the JFK files, the UFO information for the 2020 election. I think there's going to be some things that some of the previous elections weren't as honest as what some people think. I think this might be the most entertaining 6 months of our lives, because the stuff that's going to be exposed and come out, and I think they're going to come out with shock and awe, and I think we're going to see stuff happening like we've never seen happen in the next 6 to 12 months.
Boy, I agree with that, and plus, not even to mention the fact that we've been on the verge of World War III and the things that could happen like that. Not just the economy, but also war, also all these things just have all these layers to them that could affect economic things if they happen. What would your advice be then to people that, the market, you shared the numbers, the market's at an all-time high as we're starting the year. What's your advice to someone who's riding high in the market when if they're nearing retirement with all this going on?
Yeah, in my mind, this is not a time to be naked in the stock market. I would have some protections. I've said I've lost money in the market and I've made money in the market, but I'm at a point in my life where I want to make as much as I can make. If I can make 5, 10, 20, 30%, I want to make as much as I can make, but I don't want to lose what I've already got. And there are products in the market that can allow you to do that. They can give you unlimited upside with no downside risk over periods of time or with buffers. And you're the expert in that. So people can talk to you about how to have market exposure without the market risk. All right. I think I mentioned off camera that, we've had some tragedies in my family. We've had some deaths, and one of my biggest tragedies was my brother-in-law just died. He was 59. And so my youngest sister is a widow now at age 59. She has a financial advisor, and I just said, hey, Becky, can mind if I sit in and just make sure you get a second set of eyes on it? And I think he's a really good financial advisor, doing a really good job, but he's an investment advisor. He's recommending that she have a large amount of her money in the stock market. And that's when I said, time out. This is not a time for that. As you know, Brad, interest rates are very good right now, and the payout rates on some of these annuities are incredible. 6, 7, 8%, even for a young person, guaranteed for the rest of their life. She doesn't need to be in the market that much. I'm not saying not to be in the market at all, but I'm saying she would not feel comfortable having 60, 70% of money in the stock market. I wouldn't feel comfortable with that either. All right. Yeah. We're just putting some more guarantees into her portfolio, because retirement is really not about the stock market. It's not about real estate. It's about having increasing income for the rest of your life and managing risks, because there are a lot of risks in retirement. And that's, what I write about and speak about a lot.
Well, that's so good. Tom, that reminds me, yesterday I had a couple come in, and this happens a lot. You've got a couple in their 50s, their early 50s, and then their parent, a mother, they've lost the father. The mother is in her early 70s. And they came in to talk about investing some money. They'd listened to me on the radio. They've watched a podcast. And so they said, we're here to talk to you. We know you're the expert. What should we do with this? And so I start off with a risk profile and asking them, well, what's your feel about this? And they immediately said, we want to swing for the fences with this. I said, now this is for your 73-year-old mother, right? Yeah. We don't mind about this. We've got other money. We want to be aggressive. And I said, okay. So I asked a question I ask every couple. I said, let's just take a nominal amount of money. I'm going to say $200,000. If you put $200,000 into the market and you're swinging for the fences, how much would you have to lose? How much would it have to go backwards before you would become really uncomfortable? And they looked at each other and he said, I wouldn't want to lose more than 20,000. So I said, oh, okay. So if it went below 180, if you started with 200 and went below 180, you would not be comfortable. No. I said, well, wait a second. I thought you said you wanted to swing for the fences. If you swing for the fences, that means it could go down to 150. It could go down to 125. It could go down to, oh, no. We don't want to lose our money. And so it's interesting how whenever you play that out and put real numbers to it and how it could affect you and your income and your paychecks for life, people really don't want to lose their money, even though they think they want these massive returns. And so that's why a lot of the things that you talk about, we're going to talk about in this next segment. I want to get into one of your books. So those of you that are listening right now, if you're watching, when we come back, we're going to be talking about Paychecks and Playchecks, and just a book that changed my life. Tom doesn't remember when we meet, I don't think. I'm going to tell a story about when we met, and we're going to be talking about Paychecks and Playchecks, retirement solutions for life. So if you're with us, stay with us. Our number is 866-780-SAFE. That's 866-780-7233. You can call us anytime. Ask for our free information. I will give you a copy of any of Tom's books. I have all of them here. Whenever we meet together, I will give you a free copy. 866-780-7233. We'll be back right after the break. Friends, if you're just joining us, world-renowned economist Tom Hegna is on the show with us today. And Tom, I want to take you back in time. I've got your books all over my desk here, but this is a book that changed my life. So Paychecks and Playchecks, Retirement Solutions for Life. I remember you spoke at a conference, and I was young and green and didn't know anything about what I was doing. And you were talking about this book more than a decade ago. And after the event was over, they were having a little dinner with some drinks and hors d'oeuvres and stuff. And you were standing at a table, and I thought, I can actually go stand close to Tom Hegna and listen to what he's saying. And so I nudged over there, and I met you, and you kept talking, and I listened to you talk for almost an hour. You were telling stories and sharing, and I thought, this is someone I want to hitch my wagon to. I want to read everything he's written. I want to study the stuff he's done. This guy gets it, and he understands. And it has forever changed my life, Tom. So thank you so much for that. But I want to ask you this. Why do you think this book, now 12, 13 years later, why is it still resonating with so many people a decade down the road?
Well, because it was all based in math and science. And so let me kind of go back. What happened was I was in the annuity department at New York Life, and I started out as an annuity wholesaler where I train agents on how to use annuities properly. But then I rose up to be one of the top 50 officers in the company. And when I was there, I had to get a field force of 12,000 agents to look at guaranteed income instead of variable annuities, which are sexy in the market. The 90s, the market went straight up and everybody's making money. And we had this thing that would guarantee you wouldn't lose money over a 10-year period of time. So there was no stock market risk over a period of time. You get unlimited upside, no downside. I mean, it was a product that was easy for the agents to go out and talk about and sell, right? But we needed to get onto the retirement income side. New York Life was about 10 years ahead of the rest of the industry on retirement income. And so how do you get people to even look at something like a lifetime income annuity that's as boring as can be? It's simple, it's guaranteed, it's boring, versus all this sexy stock market stuff. Well, that's what I had to do. And so I dug in. That's where I read Dr. Wade Pfau, I read Dr. Robert C. Merton, and all the work on Dr. Michael Fink, and all the research, Dr. Moshe Milevsky, and all the research that's been done on guaranteed income and the mortality credits. And it's the mortality credits that are the secret sauce of income annuities, and most people don't even know what they are. And so as soon as I could explain that to them and put that into real language, and that there is a formula and a mathematical scientific formula on how to retire the optimal way. And it has to do with income, it has to deal with risk management, and it has to deal with legacy and all of that. And that's why, Paychecks and Playchecks concludes with 4 simple steps. Step number 1, cover your basic living expenses with guaranteed lifetime income. Step number 2, optimize the rest of your portfolio to protect yourself against inflation. You want to have increasing growth so that you can have increasing income. Step number 3, you must have a plan for long-term care. No retirement plan is complete without a plan for long-term care. That's the one risk that can wipe you out. And then number 4, the most efficient way to pass wealth to children, grandchildren, and charities is with life insurance. I tell people all the time, don't leave your kids any money. You're not supposed to leave them money. You're supposed to spend your money. Leave them life insurance, because you can do that for pennies on the dollar. So that's really what the book is about. Even though it was written back in 2011, it's as valid today as it was back then. Everything in there, and they changed the tax laws a little here and there, but otherwise all the concepts are still 100% valid.
Well, here's what I love about it, and I want to talk about this in our next segment too, another part of it, but I was just writing this down this morning. I know we didn't even talk about this, but going back over the distribution dilemma, because I talk about all the time. I've written nationally published articles about decumulation. Everyone's talking about building and saving for retirement, but not a lot of people know how to get the money back out in the most tax efficient way, which is what you just talked about. And so just the brilliance and the research that you did with all these other key experts. Saving for retirement is the easy part. I love that. But there's retirement risks. You have to talk about longevity risk, withdrawal rate risk, sequence of returns risk. And I love it that you were talking about those things 14 years ago, and now sequence of returns risk is talked about by everyone. I interview Dr. Wade Pfau all the time. He always talks about it. Dr. Michael Finka, always talking about it. Dr. David Blanchett, always talking about it. Inflation risk, deflation risk, and then you said it, long-term care. Every single day, and when you got 2,000 clients and most of them are 60 plus, every day is going to be a conversation with someone about a family member that's now in a nursing home and how they did not have any LTC in place and that their previous advisor had never talked to them about it and what should they do. And we see portfolios get decimated because there's no plan. And as you know, I don't know what it's like in Arizona. I know here, $7,000 to $8,000 a month can go as high as $10,000 a month for full-time around-the-clock care if you end up in long-term care. And so how quickly will that deplete a $500,000 retirement account if you're spending $10,000 a month?
And one other thing, Brad, I think most people want to stay in their house. So I call long-term care insurance anti-nursing home insurance. How are you ever going to be able to stay in your house if you don't have long-term care coverage? See, I have a long-term care plan that allows me to stay in my house. The nurse has to come to me. I don't have to go into any stinky nursing home. I'm going to stay here. Worst case, I'll go to a nice assisted living facility and be like I'm in college in a dorm room again. I mean, my parents had a pretty nice assisted living facility, but that was $10,000 a month. Thank goodness I made them buy long-term care, 18 years ago.
Friends, this is the stuff that we're going to talk about, not only in Paychecks and Playchecks, but another great book, which we'll talk about later in the show, Don't Worry, Retire Happy. This book is so critical, 7 Steps to Retirement Security, and it talks about all these things. So If you're listening right now, maybe you've never heard this information. Maybe you've never read it. The number one problem, I think, for so many people is that they just have no plan. They're saving in the 401k because someone told them to. They don't understand tax deferred versus tax free. They don't understand what an RMD is. They don't understand how it's going to pass to a non-spouse beneficiary. And I get it. You're working. You're struggling to survive. Maybe you're doing a great job of getting along, but you just still have no plan for taking it back out. This is what all this information is about, and we are decumulation experts, showing you how to get the money back out of your retirement accounts on the back end in the second half of the game when it matters the most. You're heading into the playoffs. You make a wrong move, it could be one loss, one mistake, and you're done. It's game over, and we don't want that for you. So call us anytime, 866-780-SAFE. That's 866-780-7233, and there's someone standing by right now to take your call. Friends, we've been talking about Tom Hegna's best-selling book. It's been around for almost 15 years now, Paychecks and Playchecks, Retirement Solutions for Life. And Tom, I want to talk about one part of the book. You talk about insuring your investments with annuities, and you and I talk about this a lot. I know we've done a lot of videos together. You own more than 10 annuities. I own 8 annuities. People that listen to us are like, well, yeah, but you've got a lot of money. No, it's not about that. It's about setting up a plan for increasing income, turning on buckets at different stages of life. There's different tax statuses to our money, which is why we do it. But I want you to talk about this. You know, when you wrote Paychecks and Playchecks, annuity was still a 4-letter word. People didn't like it. They poo-pooed it. They hated it. They don't ever buy an annuity. And there's still crazy people that take ads out that say don't ever buy an annuity. But we know better than that now. All the people with PhDs in front of their name, they all agree. Annuities are great. It's not should you own one, it's how many and how do you implement them into your portfolio. Why do you think over the last 10 to 15 years, I know you helped start a lot of the information about the annuity world, but why has the attitude changed? Why now are experts saying, oh, yeah, annuities are great. You need to have them in your portfolio?
Well, because again, it's based in math and science. So it's not somebody's opinion. I can mathematically show you that the portfolio performance will improve if you add an annuity because the annuities outperform the bonds. So an income annuity outperforms bonds. And so if a person's 60% stock, 40% bonds, simply by replacing some or all of those 40% bonds with annuities, the portfolio is going to do better. The research now shows you're likely to be happier if you have guaranteed income coming in. And because you're happier, now the research shows you're likely to live longer. You know, it's been Patrick Tricker wrote an article in the Journal for Financial Service Professionals. He said, you know, the average 65-year-old man who purchases a lifetime income annuity can expect to live about 20% longer than a 65-year-old male who does not, and explained all the reasons. They don't have the worry. They don't have the stress. Because they're being paid to live, every month they get that check. Hey, I want to live a little longer. They watch what they eat. They exercise. They see the doctor. They're not feeling well. And all these little things cause them to tend to live longer. And so... yeah. You know, if you could do something that would improve your portfolio performance, allow you to be happier and live longer, I don't know how that could be a bad thing. And I think that's what's seeping in. And now people are going, okay, now I get it. This is a guaranteed paycheck, or I think more importantly, playcheck for the rest of my life. And see, retirement is all about spending money. That's what people don't understand. You enjoy your retirement by spending money. It's the dinners out. It's the bottles of wine with your friends. It's the cruises. It's spending. But see, Brad, there's 2 types of people, savers and spenders. I'm a saver. I've always been a saver. I've saved 30 to 40% of my income my whole career, all right? But it's hard for savers to become spenders. But what's worked for me is I've got all these play checks. I can spend a play check. I just don't want to go into my account and take out, you know, $150,000 to spend it. That's hard for me to do. But if I got checks coming in that will never run out, I'll spend those. And so I think play checks are the secret to turning savers into spenders so they can enjoy their retirement.
I love it. I've got all these buckets held in annuities with income riders, and that's, Tom, that's exactly how I think about it, and you've taught me that. But I don't think about that as a pot of money. That's I could go pull $100,000 out of that if I want. I could pull 200. I don't think about that. I think about it as a paycheck, because when I get finished, there's not going to be a pension for Brad Pistole. Okay, it's just whatever I do is what we've got. Going to turn that play check on and let it start funding whatever it is I want to go do, and when I want some more, I'm turning on the next one and then the next one. So I want to ask you a silly question. You were talking about, it may have been off camera before, but you were talking about having 2 golf memberships now. Early in life, you couldn't afford it. It didn't make sense. Now you've got 2. Silly question. Is it exciting to think about tomorrow I'm going to go over here and play at this course? Next week I'm going to play at this course. Then I may go, is that an exciting thing when you're semi-retired to think about that?
Look, I enjoy it so much, and we spend our summers up in Flagstaff where it's cooler. It's 75 instead of 120 down in Phoenix. But then we spend our winters down here in the Phoenix area. So that's why we have two. I'm here for 6 months. I'm there for 6 months. You know, in 2020, I won the club championship up there. In 2022, I won the senior club championship. I feel like I'm a kid at summer camp. And that's what I try to portray retirement as. It's not this thing, retirement's going to be boring, it's going to be sad. No, my wife and I, we're traveling all over the world. We're going to, in fact, in a few weeks, we're going to go down to Central America, and then we're doing Australia, we're doing Thailand, we're doing Singapore, and then we're going to do the Viking Grand European Tour in September. I mean, we're scheduling, doing all the fun things that we've always wanted to do. I was the hardest worker I knew for 30 years, and for the next 30 years, I want to be the hardest player that I know for 30 years, because we're out there having fun, and that's what retirement's supposed to be. Don't worry, retire happy, and I'm trying to do it.
Absolutely. Well, that's so good, and those of you that are listening, here's how you accomplish that. Obviously, if every time you wanted to go play golf, or if you got invited to play in a tournament, which I played years and years with my dad in tournaments. He worked at Merrill Lynch. We traveled. I loved it. Every time there was going to be a tournament, I couldn't sleep that night knowing we were going to go play golf together, and we have all those memories. Well, how do you do that in retirement and not worry about it? Well, if you're having to wake up and go, oh, well, I wonder what I have to sell out of my portfolio to be able to afford this trip. Well, what if the market goes up? Well, what if it goes down? What if it goes down too much? What if I have to adjust how much I have to take out? You do not want to play that game in retirement. That's why Paychecks and Playchecks is going to talk about this. Don't worry, Retire Happy is going to hone in on this. So friends, if you're listening right now, call us anytime. We'll put this life-changing information in your hands. It's 866-780-7233, and someone's standing by right now to take your call. Now, if you're watching on the show right now, if you're listening, you can't see this, but you need to go to YouTube and just look up Brad Pistole, Tom Hegna. You'll be able to see what we're talking about today. I'm holding up Don't Worry, Retire Happy, 7 Steps to Retirement Security. And Tom, in this book, you talk a lot about the research of the people with the PhDs, people we've had on the show, Dr. Wade Pfau, Dr. Michael Finke, Dr. David Blanchett, many others. And we've been talking about guaranteed income and why it's so important, but you also talk about having a plan for long-term care, and all these things, inflation, sequence of returns risk. And I just want to ask, in your opinion, based on all the work you've done with all these retirement research experts, what are the most important things that a person in 2025 that's about to step off the cliff into the fun world of retirement, what kind of things do they need to be focusing on, like a short list?
Yeah. So, Paychecks and Playchecks had 4 steps. Don't Worry, Retire Happy had 6 or 7. Why? Well, because it was TV, okay? And so we had it's actually 6, but I threw in an extra one. So the most important one is you got to have a plan. And I think you need to work with a financial professional. Brad, you said it so clearly. The average person cannot do all of this stuff. I know this stuff inside and out. I work with 2 financial advisors, okay? Because I might know what I need, but I don't know which company, because the companies change all the time and they're changing their products every 2 weeks. I need somebody to dial that in. And so if I need to work with a financial professional, I would think every single one of your listeners should do that as well. Number 2, they should maximize their Social Security benefits. Too many people are just willy-nilly claiming it early. Now, some people should claim it early. If you have bad life expectancy, there's reasons why some people should, but most people should delay at least till full retirement age, and for some people probably to age 70. But that, again, is why they need to work with you, because you have a Social Security calculator. You can show them what their options are. I think they should consider a hybrid retirement like what I'm doing. Just don't go cold turkey into retirement. I still have my foot in the work. I'm leaving this afternoon. I'm going to speak in Sacramento tomorrow, okay? I'm going to be speaking this month in Texas and in Louisiana and in Florida. So I'm still doing a few things, but I still play golf 4 to 5 days a week, all right? They've got to be concerned about inflation, so you got to have increasing income. Step number 5, you got to have income. Income is the key thing in retirement. It's not assets, it's income and risk management. Got to have that plan for long-term care. And then I talk about using home equity wisely as well, and then using life insurance as the most efficient way to pass wealth to children, grandchildren, and charities. And so there's some overlap in the book, but they are separate books. There's maybe 25% overlap, but those are the same things you need to be happy in retirement.
So good. Friends, I want to come back with one more session with Tom and kind of wrap things up. And he said something that triggered something in my brain. So if you want any of the information, and Don't forget this. I give this out to so many couples because of their children and grandchildren. Who wants to be a millionaire? Tom and I were together January of 2024. We recorded a special that was on Fox Business. You can watch it on my website. You can watch it on YouTube. But we talk about how easy it is in this country to become a millionaire. It really is. Now, you have to be disciplined, and you have to stay after it, and it's not going to happen overnight if you want true lasting wealth. But it's so easy to do. Paychecks and Playchecks. Don't worry, retire happy. Who wants to be a millionaire? If you can't become successful and develop a plan with a qualified financial professional with this material, we can't help you. This is all you need right here. Call us at 866-780-SAFE, 866-780-7233. We'll be glad to help. Well, friends, I'm so grateful to have had Tom Hegna on the show with us again today. I selfishly love to steal his time and share his information with you as much as possible. But he said something in our last segment, and I want to piggyback on it because it's so good. And this lets me give a shout out to a good friend of mine. So Kevin Lynch, if you're watching right now, this is a recently retired professor from the American College of Financial Services with 23 different financial designations. He has forgotten more about financial planning than I will ever know. And yesterday we were talking via email. He's a client of ours, and I said, hey, I'm going to be talking with Tom Hegna tomorrow. He's going to be on the show. And he's like, oh my gosh, I love Tom Hegna. I can't wait to watch it. And I want to share something that Tom said and then share this with you about Kevin Lynch. Why would a retired professor from the American College of Financial Services who taught for years and years, teaching people how to put their plan in place, with 23 different financial designations, why would he reach out to me and talk to me about what annuity he needs to own for his portfolio, which he has ended up purchasing 4, and he's going to purchase more this year? It's interesting, this concept of those who own more and more and more of them to have different paychecks. But why would he do that? Well, this is what Kevin said, and we have YouTube videos about this where he said, Brad, I realized I did all the teaching showing everyone else how to put it together, but when it come to putting my own plan together, I was too close to it. There was too much emotion involved. I couldn't put my own plan together. I needed an expert to help me do that. So Tom had said in the previous episode segment, he has 2 financial advisors who help them. Tom, what is your advice to the person who's listening right now who's like, well, I've done pretty good for myself. I think I can manage. I don't really need help. What would you say to them?
It's not just what you know that can get you. It's what you don't know and what you're not thinking about. It's the risks that you haven't even considered. And that's where a good financial professional can show you, here's what can happen if things go well. Here's what's going to happen if things go badly. And you want to be sure that even if everything goes down, the market goes down, the interest rates go down, that you're going to be okay. All right. And that's what a good financial professional will do. And again, I want to make as much as I can make, but I don't want to lose what I've already got. I want to have as many paychecks coming in because as a saver, that's the only way that I can really spend money. It's so hard for savers to spend. And Brad, you know that. You've got clients who are from the Great Depression and they wouldn't even take the interest on their investments and spend it, and I try to get them to spend at least the interest. They wouldn't even do that. But when you get these checks coming in that never run out, it's easier to spend money, and it's the spending of money that allows you to enjoy your retirement.
Well, I'll say this, Tom. Right now I'm in the American College's brand new course. It just started, the Tax Planning Certified Professional course. I'm in the first group. And I've got my RICP, Retirement Income Certified Professional, Certified Annuity Specialist, my IRMA designation, all this fun stuff. Why did I get my son's like, why are you going to more school? You get enough letters behind your name. Well, I can tell you this, about 6 lessons into the Certified Tax Planning Professional program, I'm learning things that I didn't know I didn't know. And I'm like, oh, well, before I thought I was pretty savvy with everything. And then I'm learning things going, why didn't I know this? And so education never, ever stops. Why do we give Tom's books away free? Why do we want you to call in and get this information? Because we want you to be prepared for things that you don't even know exist. So as we wrap this up, one last question for Tom. There are 10,000 people turning 65 every single day in this world. 11 and 12,000. We're kind of coming on the back down side of the curve. T65 just happened where more people turn 65 than at any other time in our world's history. What advice would you give to someone about to retire in today's world?
I think I'd say, hey, give Brad a call and you don't have to buy a single thing from Brad. Why don't you let him run a plan for you? He would do that for you at no charge. And he will show you, here's your current situation, here's how I can make it better. And then you decide. If you don't think his recommendation is better, don't do it. but I bet you that he's going to tell you some things that you didn't know. He's going to show you some risks that you didn't know about, and he's going to put a plan together so that you can actually enjoy your retirement. I want everybody to have a retirement that's as fun as mine. And, you know, I lost my dad, lost my mom, lost a couple of golfing buddies, and I was sitting in a hotel one day and saying, what the heck am I doing with my life? I have enough to retire. And very few people ever say they have enough. But I said that, and that's why I got off the road, and I'm very limited my speaking because I want to enjoy my retirement. Nobody knows how much time we got left. I don't know.
That's so good. Friends, you've been listening to the best of the best of the best today, someone that transformed my life. I use all of his information in my own personal plan, and I use it in the plans of all my clients. So if you're listening right now, I'll say this. I would love for you to go talk to 2, 3, 4 other people. Do your homework. Do your research. But give us a call also and hear what we have to say. Because so much of the time, if someone is not a retirement income certified professional, they only know about part of the plan. It may just be about the investments and how to grow your wealth. They may have no idea how to take the money back out on the back end, and that's what we're experts in. So we're so grateful for people like Tom sharing his information with all of you. If you're listening, you want to learn more, just give us a call. 86. Tom, thank you so much for joining us. Everyone, have a great, safe week. And if you're retired, go have fun. Enjoy your life. That's what it's all about. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you again. Have a great week, and God bless.